So starting in the 1990s when Willie Brown was mayor, there was a mass, because of the global economic situation, there was a massive shift of the industrial lands in San Francisco to being residential and office. And that's where you get the live-work battles of the late 1990s and the first dot-com boom. And that wave of transformation in the city really transformed large parts of this city, what are called now the eastern neighborhoods, transformed them from being manufacturing and blue-collar jobs. The working class kind of base of San Francisco transformed it into being white-collar and transformed San Francisco into being a tech and biotech economy. Fast forward to the second tech boom, which is where we're at now, and you've got a full-scale transformation. There is no more manufacturing except for small-scale kind of boutique manufacturing in San Francisco. All of the kind of raw, gritty part of San Francisco around manufacturing, transportation of goods, it's all gone. And so San Francisco is kind of this picturesque, idyllic place that everybody sees in their postcards, and that's where everybody wants to be. And so you can sit at your computer and make $1 billion, create a new corporation without any of the grit and stench and mess of an industrial economy, which is basically gone from San Francisco. So now you have our kind of middle and underclass, or all the city workers, everybody who provides all the services and make the city actually run, and then all of the janitors and domestic workers and baristas and the restaurant workers, who now are kind of our minimum wage earners, who work in small business, which is supposedly the kind of economic vitality and economic engine of San Francisco, of all of urban America. Basically, the presumption is that people can live wherever. They don't need to live in San Francisco. San Francisco is the idyllic place for the rich to live because that's where they want to live. And where kind of the middle and underclass then get to live, well, we've got a whole infrastructure of BART and bridges and transit. And the presumption is that people can live wherever they live. And so affordable housing is something that's not a burden for San Francisco to bear. So no, we'll never build our way out of the affordability crisis in San Francisco because rich people want to displace poor people because those poor people can live wherever they can afford to live. It'll be taken care of regionally. People don't care. People don't have any value that people should be taken care of within San Francisco. Back in the day when people needed to live near work, there was no infrastructure of mass transit, regional transit. Everybody needed to live in the same city, and that economy kind of grew around worker housing and around work of all types being in San Francisco. That's no longer the case. It hasn't been the case for decades.
So what does this have to do with Google buses?
Oh, right. What does this have to do with Google buses? Because the people who are here in San Francisco now, they're here because San Francisco doesn't have the grit. It doesn't have the stench. It doesn't have the mess of being an industrial city. Just like New York. New York's no longer an industrial city. People like the High Line. They don't like the freight trains going in and out of industrial areas. Meat packing and all that kind of stuff. So further evidence of the fact that people don't like that grit and that mess is that poor people can live outside the city, or the poor people who do live in the city, they can take their own buses and they can take their own, they can kind of live their own life. But we people who are here because of the idyllic San Francisco, the postcards, we're going to take our own bus. It's nice and tidy and has internet and gets us to work in the way we like to get to work with the people we want to be commiserating with. That we don't have to take Muni stinky and messy like San Francisco of olden days. That's why we have Google buses. So, just a symptom of the problem.